Hello fellow audio nerds, I'm Steph and this is Major Hi-Fi. So a few weeks back I got to listen to the AAW Ash and it was my first time hearing a product from AAW and I was, pleasantly surprised. Well, this week I got a chance to listen to the AAW Canary, which is AAW's flagship IEM. So I was really excited to give them a listen. But the biggest question is, are these earphones worth the bigger price tag? Because it is quite a bit more expensive than the Ash. Well, let's go back in time. I'll share with you my first impressions, and then I'll meet you right back here for my overall thoughts. All right, here we go. Hey everybody, welcome to my place. So today I've got with me the AAW Canary, so let's see what's inside the box here. Alright, so as you'll see here, we've got a few different accessories. First things first, there's a warranty card here for the earphones. Next, we've got two different cases. One is more of a storage case, and the other is more of a kind of carrying around case made of wood. Really good looking too, where you can fit just the IEMs in there. Next, we've got the an airplane adapter and a 6.35 millimeter adapter. We've got an assortment of ear tips here, kind of both gray silicone, black, and then the black foam tips. There's a microfiber cloth here for keeping the earphones real nice. And then here we've got the IEMs themselves with this beautiful detachable cable. Now these IEMs, just looking at them, are probably the most beautiful IEMs I've ever seen, and I've seen a lot of them. You'll notice that it's got this really beautiful kind of like purple and green shiny kind of design on the faceplate there, with a really simple, it says Canary across the top in gold lettering. But the actual IEM itself, you'll see on the back side, it's made of plastic, I think, but it's a little bit translucent, so you can actually see kind of the inner workings of these IEMs and all the drivers and everything. Additionally, you'll notice that there's a 2-pin port here for 2-pin cable. And when I take off the ear tip here, you'll notice there's a steel nozzle here. They do feel extremely well made, and I guess they should for $2,000. But these are, really beautiful IEM, and I kind of just can't get over how pretty they are. They really look like a piece of jewelry. Now you'll notice that the actual driver housings here are pretty large, so I'm curious how they'll fit in my ears. They actually do remind me a bit of the other AAW I just reviewed, the AAW Ash, but let's see how they fit. I'm actually pleasantly surprised by these because they do stick out of my ears a little bit, but I am getting a nice seal in the ear canal with these, probably because of the angle of this nozzle. You can sort of see the angle that it sits at. But yeah, it fit okay in my ears. I'm sure it'll fit even better for those with larger ears, but I am able to get a seal here. They're also kind of nice and comfortable because the IEMs are not super heavy. They definitely feel well made, but they just have kind of a lightness to them that makes it less like gravity is trying to pull them out of my ears. And then additionally, something that's really helping keep them in my ears is this ear hook here, which kind of, it kind of retracts back to its original shape after you move it, so it kind of keeps that tightness right around the ear there. I do just want to talk about this cable here for a second. It's a cable made by Null Audio, and it's their Symphonym cable. It's the Symphonym, I'm not sure how to pronounce this, Symphonym Hakone UPOCC silver/copper cable. So you'll notice that there's 2 different conductors for each IEM. One is copper, one is silver coated. They connect to the earpieces with a 2-pin connector, as I said already, and it terminates to this 3.5 millimeter connector here. And the thing that's really awesome about this cable, and you can just see it in the attention to detail that the cable has in general, but it feels very well made. These connectors have a real sense of weight to them. They just feel expensive and feel well made. But more interestingly, you know, these two wires that are braided together, they're actually specifically designed to avoid cross interference and to have full signal transmission, like the highest quality signal transmission that they can do. So I'm really interested to see, you know, if I can hear that come through the cable. I've also read on their website that they've sort of described people describe this cable as having like a nice big kind of like low mid presence, a nice like low frequency response. So yeah, I don't know, I'm excited to give them a listen and see for myself how it sounds. But before getting into the sound of these, I do just want to quickly talk about the driver situation on the inside of them, because they do use some really interesting technology. There are actually 3 different types of drivers in here. There's an isobaric 6mm driver. There are 4 balanced armature drivers, and then there's a dual electrostatic driver. So kind of interesting, because I just also did the review of the Trinity, which used dynamic balanced armature and electrostatic. Well, this sort of does the same thing. The 6mm dual isobaric driver is dedicated to the low frequencies, and it actually has 2 diaphragms that have really, really strong magnets, and that helps to avoid issues that typical dynamic drivers have with creating the low frequencies. So very interested to check that out. But then the mid-range and the highs come through via 4 balanced armature drivers, and any potential incoherence or phase issues are handled by the special True Cross 4-way crossover technology. It's the same technology actually that they use in the AAW Ash as well. And then lastly, there's a dual electrostatic super tweeter, and that's dedicated to the super high frequencies, so I'm expecting this is going to have a really nice shine on it as well. Really excited to take a listen. But yeah, basically inside, it utilizes a special transformer that uses acoustic pressure made by the musical signal in conjunction with the gold plate to actually amplify the signal for that electrostatic driver. Because you know electrostats, right? They usually have their own separate amplifiers to do that, but the technology in here kind of does the amplification for itself with a dedicated transformer in there. You know, the combination of these different types of drivers and their technologies, those technologies let the Canary have an even and low impedance across the frequency spectrum. So they say that it's optimized for soundstage, and it's just in general optimized to give like a really nice even sound signature, and I guess we'll find out. Let's take a listen to these. Wow, I'm super impressed by the low end of these. I was just listening to the song A Bigger Paper Bag by Father John Misty, and what I'm finding with these that was really impressive, so the kick drum and the bass guitar both kind of do this swinging pattern, and so basically 2 really quick kick drum hits happen, and then there's space, and then just a single hit happens, and then there's space. But the way the low frequency handles the changing it up of the 2 quick hits and the 1 single hit, it has the speed and the detail to really handle those quick hits super well, but also it still provides weight to the longer hits, and yeah, it just ends up giving the song a really strong foundation of low frequency energy underneath there. And then additionally, there's really amazing separation between the kick drum and the bass guitar, and yet they both still feel really big. So I'm, yeah, super impressed so far. Wow, I'm really impressed with the mid-range of these too. I was just listening to the song Shout Mountain Music by Old Crow Medicine Show, and the acoustic guitar, the fiddles, the banjo all have a really great sense of separation from each other, and yet still feel super harmonically complex and full. So that's a really impressive quality of these that I think is ultimately also going to come down to the soundstage, but obviously I'll get into it. But additionally, the bass, the upright bass sounds really full and also has the sense of like kind of dimensionality to it. But it really gives this sense of like pumpiness and grooviness. You know, there's just a sense of quickness with the mid-range as well that sounds really, really nice, and ultimately just leaves the music feeling more energetic. Wow. Yeah, I was just listening to the song So Tender by Keith Jarrett, and the high frequencies are gorgeous. The piano in the song, I can hear its full overtones reaching also into the high frequencies. But then the cymbals feel so, they're really rich and complex, but still have a lot of detail to them. And I could hear like each brush stroke, as well as the full sustain of the cymbal in a way that, you know, I hadn't even really noticed with the song before. I could really hear the full sustain and overtones that keep ringing out even after the other cymbals have been hit. You know, you can just really hear it in a really detailed way. And I don't know, I'm still sort of examining it, but at first when I was listening, the cymbals seemed to me to be a little bit louder in the mix, but I think actually that's not really the case, but rather there's just a lot of spaciousness around them. Like the noise floor of this cable is super low, and yeah, it kind of gives the cymbals more room to have more presence without taking up more space, if that makes sense. But anyway, it sounds really good. And then lastly, there just kind of seems to be this sense of like texture and air over top of everything, the entire mix as a whole, just because of the high frequency extension and just the way that the frequencies feel so spacious. They really feel revealed. But yeah, I'm gonna keep listening and definitely examine it a bit closer as the rest of the week goes on. I'm super psyched on the sound stage of these. I was just listening to the song I'll Show You by Justin Bieber, and the difference in spaciousness and the difference in depth between the far off melodic synth during the verse and his super intimate vocal is contrasts very well, and those two extremes are filled in a really nuanced way with the other synths going on. Even, you know, the drums and kind of the washy cymbals, it all kind of like fits in and feels like a really full sound stage. It doesn't feel overly expansive, but it just feels kind of realistic sounding. Same thing with the sense of width. The wide, washy synths contrast really strongly with the vocal that's right up the middle, but then the background vocals and the cymbals and the other synthesizers going on fill in those extremes really well. And then as for the sense of height, I mean, Justin's voice has a really kind of a sense of brightness to it, and same thing with some bright synths, and those feel super high up top, and that contrasts extremely with the subbiness of the sub bass and the kick. But anyway, yeah, I'm definitely looking forward to listening to this even more as the rest of the week goes on, because I think this is a really special earphone. There's definitely a unique quality to it, and I can't quite put my finger on it yet, but yeah, I'll let you know back at the Major Hi-Fi office. All right, here we go. Overall, the low frequencies of the AAW Canary were super well done, and yeah, I just really, really enjoyed them. They're punchy and they're tight, and really they come through with a sense of quickness while maintaining a sense of fullness and nice big energy too. It did have a little bit of a sub-frequency boost as well, and that sort of gives just this extra like feeling of power with them. And as a result though, because of how quick they are, but because of how full they feel, they work equally well, in my opinion, for arrangements that are really dense as well as arrangements that are more sparse. So they really work for a wide variety of genres because of how the low end particularly handles transients and also feels nice and full at the same time. As for the mid-range of the Canary, it was really, really nice and full, harmonically complex, and yet felt also really, really spacious. You know, maybe it's something in this cable, but really the mid-range's spaciousness made it extremely well done, again, for both dense and sparse arrangements. There's definitely a sense of quickness to it, but at the same time, it feels full, and it doesn't feel like there are any dips that are taking away from, any information in the mid-range. As for its overall shape, the low mids feel really nice and full. The middle part of the mid-range feels even, feels like it can handle a piano beautifully. It can handle strings. The most complex of instruments it handles very well, and all the information is there. And then as for the high mids, it did feel a little bit more like it had a bit of emphasis to it. The emphasis there is has kind of a wide cue, so it doesn't feel unnatural, but it does bring an extra little bit of snappiness to transients, to snare drums. It brings forwards a little bit closer to you in space and in the mix in general. And yeah, it just sounds like it has a lot of detail without taking away from any of the rest of the mid-range. As for the high frequencies of the Canary, they came through with a really nice sense of naturalness to them. I did hear a little bit of a boost in the lower treble as well as in the upper octave, so this kind of gives an extra sense of articulation to everything, and it gives a sense of air to everything, but they don't feel harsh at all, but rather, they really show the high frequencies in an interesting way because all of the information is there. Very rich sounding high end, and yet it sort of leans toward that top, which kind of gives it a little bit of character. Additionally, the Canary works equally well for instruments and genres that need a really even high frequency response, things that have really complex cymbals, pianos, strings, but it works equally well for genres that don't need as much realism, but like a little bit of character. They like having a little bit of added air to everything. So it's a really versatile high-frequency response, and in general, a really versatile earphone for all genres. Lastly, the soundstage of the Canary feels super intentional and refined. It's a really well-done soundstage. It doesn't feel overly expansive, but what it does do is it has such a sense of spaciousness and a sense of just like realism to whatever the mixer's intentions were, that emotionally, it's very an impactful soundstage. In terms of how it represents itself, you can really hear the difference in space between vocals and things set further back in space. Likewise, things that are up high have like a really nice sense of extension, actually, particularly in that upper octave. There's a lot of energy there. But likewise, in the sub-region, you still get that nice big kick that anchors things down below you. And then in terms of the sense of width, you get the extremes out to the side with the centered vocal really strong, but you also get all the nuance of everything in between those extremes. So it's a very well done soundstage, one that I had a lot of pleasure with, and there's just a sense of spaciousness there that I wasn't even really expecting. Overall, the AAW Canary is going to be a great option for those of you that listen to a wide variety of genres, and I think a lot of people listen to a wide variety of genres because it can handle both a solo violin track just as well as it handles like a big, thick pop arrangement, It can really handle different arrangements extremely well. That said, it's a really beautiful earphone also, but it works better for folks who have larger ears or medium to large ears rather than folks with smaller ears. So it's worth just examining your own personal ear shape and size to see whether or not this would be the right fit for you. Thank you so much for watching. For another perspective on the AAW Canary, check out the link in the description box down below. I will leave a link to my colleague's review there. If you liked the video, please give it a thumbs up. And for more videos like this, be sure to subscribe. Alright, I will see you next time. Bye.